Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Patrick Murphy here in Los Angeles, the morning after Ohio State's 28-23 win over Washington in the Rose Bowl, sending Urban Meyer out in style. Buckeyes got up 28-3, and then, like me and everybody else, they thought the game was over and just kind of packed it in, and Washington made a furious comeback. But bottom line is the Buckeyes won, finished the season 13-1, Big Ten champs for the second straight year, beat Michigan for the seventh straight year, and Urban Meyer, for the first time coaching in the Rose Bowl, goes out with a win. Patrick Murphy, I know the second half was not the best for the Buckeyes, but they got the job done.
They did, and I think that's what's most important. You know, when you look back on this season, I think you'll focus more on the 13-1. It's crazy to think about with everything that happened, the start of the year with Urban Meyer being suspended, Ryan Day having to take over. Then you have that stretch of games for about a month where you don't play well after Urban Meyer comes back. That includes the 29-point loss to Purdue. And, you know, you still finish the season 13-1 and Rose Bowl champs. And I know that in today's day and age, the college football playoff is the end-all, be-all, and that's where the Buckeyes want to be at the beginning of the year and want to be at the end of the year. But I think you have to kind of tip your hat to this team for handling things, fighting through adversity, figuring out ways to win all but one of their games, and then going out and sending these guys out the right way with a win. You know, I don't think it will matter next year as you head into 2019 what the score was of this game. You know, it'll be a very different team, I think, and we'll probably touch on that. But, you know, player-wise, coaching-wise. And so, you know, the important thing today was getting the win, and they did that. And, you know, I think for the most part, they looked pretty good doing it.
I'm sure a lot of you want to know who's staying and who's going as far as the NFL. You know, most of the guys were non-committal after the game last night. You know already that Mike Weber's leaving. You know, Draymond Jones is leaving. They all announced that early. I think Dwayne Haskins is leaving. Pro Football Talk put out a story last night saying that Dwayne Haskins is leaving. Dwayne refuted that. Dwayne says he's 50-50. He hasn't made up his mind yet, but I think Dwayne's definitely leaving. We had a chance to ask Michael Jordan, Jordan Fuller, thank God Jeffrey Okudah is not a junior because he'd probably go pro as well as he played last night. My God, Jeffrey Okudah played great. But got a chance to ask Damon Arnett, Jordan Fuller, Mike Jordan, and KJ Hill. All four of them told me they're not sure yet. Now, my guess is that I think Damon Arnett is going to go pro. Save all the jokes. I'm not saying he's going to be a good NFL player if he's even going to be drafted, but maybe he'll be a late-round pick. I just think he's done with school as a fourth-year junior. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think Damon Arnett's probably going to go. I think Kendall Sheffield will go pro. KJ Hill, I don't know. I go back and forth on that. He's not a very fast receiver, so he'd be like, at best, like a day 3 pick. Rounds 4 through 7, and probably closer to 7 than 4. So I don't know if he's going to leave or not. But I do think Mike Jordan's going to come back. And if he does come back, Ryan Day's already said the plan is for Jordan to move back to guard and Josh Myers to take over as a starting center. And I do think Jordan Fuller is going to come back too. So just Patrick, it's a lot to unpack there. But just, you know, do you think Jordan's going to stay? Jordan Fuller? Just what do you think? What do you think those guys are going to do?
I'm pretty much in line with what you said in terms of who stays, who goes. Kendall Sheffield's another one I think probably goes. I think him and Damon Arnett are in similar boats just because they've been in school for 4 years. I'm fairly confident, given that Kendall Sheffield was a 5-star kid that went to Alabama, that he was on a 3-year track, in his mind at least. He's 4 years in. He's been in 3 different schools, including going to Blinn College. So I think he probably goes. Whether or not he's ready is up for a debate, and similarly with Damon Arnett. KJ Hill's an interesting one, as you said. If he ends up on the right team, like if you imagine him on the New England Patriots, you know, he doesn't have to be the fastest guy, doesn't have to be, you know, the perfect NFL wide receiver, but he's a good route runner. He's got good hands. He's a coachable kid. We've seen him develop throughout his time at Ohio State. So I think he could be a guy that goes to the NFL, even if he falls in the draft, could have some good NFL success if the right team thinks they have a spot for him. Michael Jordan, I think the fact that they've already talked about and devised a plan on him coming back is a sign that is the way he's probably going to go. Now, he could change his mind and decide that it's time to go make money. He's obviously been a starter since he was a freshman, so he's played plenty at Ohio State, but you just don't see offensive linemen go very, very early, or you don't see them leave early very often, I guess I should say. So he's another one. Who else were we talking about? There was one more. Arnett, yeah, I think he'll go. Yep. Fuller is interesting. I think that he has proven enough in his 2 years as a starter that he could be an NFL safety. I think he can improve his draft stock if he comes back this next year. He's a guy who I think played well this year, but because the secondary was disappointing, I think he didn't rise as much as maybe his play deserves, his talent deserves. So he's a guy I think could go either way. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me with anybody, but he's a kid that is in a very challenging degree, is doing very well in it, and could think about coming back just to finish that degree as well as improving his draft stock. I don't know what kind of draft grade he got. I can't imagine it was as high as he probably wants, but it only takes one team to draft you, and then you go out there and kind of ball out. So that's a guy I could see going either way.
All right, we're going to talk about next year's team to finish the show. Before we get there, some big news came down last night, really right before the game. So last afternoon for us, last evening for you guys on the East Coast, right before the Rose Bowl started, news broke that former Oklahoma State offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich will be on Ryan Day's staff. We got word of this a week ago and published something in the boarding house. Letterman Row confirmed it. I shouldn't say they confirmed our story. They put a story up. We confirmed it through our sources. So, again, it's not a done deal. Ryan Day was asked about it, but it's pretty much a done deal. The Oklahoma State offensive coordinator is coming to Ohio State, so I think that's a really good hire. This is a guy that very innovative offensive mind. We all know Oklahoma State, they can play some offense. They can't play a lick of defense, but they can play some offense. He was there for 6 years under Mike Gundy. Before that, he was at Shippensburg, Division II Shippensburg in Pennsylvania. Exactly, Division II Shippensburg in Pennsylvania. He wasn't the head coach there. He was the offensive coordinator. Got a name as a real, offensive mind, innovative. He's a quarterback's coach. So we're hearing he's going to be co-offensive coordinator / quarterback's coach / passing game coordinator. And you're probably wondering about Kevin Wilson. We're hearing Kevin Wilson is going to stay on the staff. He'll be offensive coordinator in name, and he'll have running game coordinator and tight ends coach. So that's how it's going to break down. There's going to be a big shakeup on the defensive side of the staff. I have no doubt about that, and we'll see what happens there. I don't think Greg Schiano is going to come back, but just looking at the Mike Yurcich hire, at least the pending Mike Yurcich hire, I really like this, Patrick.
I agree, and this is a guy whose name I didn't recognize. I obviously am familiar with what Oklahoma State has done, so I had to do a little bit of research and look at what he's accomplished in his career there, and I like what I've seen. Obviously, the defenses that he'll face in the Big Ten are going to be better than the ones he faces in the Big 12, but a guy who seems to have an offensive mind, a good offensive mind, I should say, and it'll be interesting to see how he works with whatever Ryan Day wants to do as an offense. We don't know that yet. We've seen him run what Urban Meyer wants to do and sort of his variation on that. So this is going to be interesting as Ryan Day builds his staff, especially offensively, his specialty side of the ball. And it starts with this hire, how that kind of paints the picture of what this offense might look like next year. But I think that this is a good hire. I think he'll come in and fit with the style. Otherwise I don't know why you go after him. It's a guy that Tennessee was very interested in, and it sounds like Ohio State had to outbid Tennessee for his services. So I imagine that this is a guy that they were very interested in, that Ryan Day did his homework on, and will work out well for the Buckeyes.
All right, as promised, the 2019 Buckeyes, the Ryan Day Buckeyes. As of now, Ryan Day officially your head coach, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I think this is going to be a really good team. I mean, this defense, I know they've been bad. They were bad all of the 2018 season pretty much, but I think they're going to be a good defense. Now, they got to get the right coaches in place, of course, but you look at this defensive line, they're losing Draymond Jones, which obviously he's an awesome player. That's the only guy they're losing off the defensive line. They have everybody else coming back, which is huge. I think the linebackers will be better because they can't get any worse. I think they're going to have a new linebacker coach. I think Bill Davis is going to also leave, not just Greg Schiano. Offensively, we'll see who the quarterback is. It sounds like it's probably going to be Justin Fields if he transfers here, or Tate Martell. I guess I wouldn't rule out Matthew Baldwin. If Justin Fields transfers, I'm going to rule out Matthew Baldwin. I think it's going to come down to Fields or Martell. But, the offensive line, if Jordan comes back, I think they're going to be solid. They're losing Pridgeon, they're losing Prince, but they're getting Bowen back. Nicholas Pettit-Ferrer could get in there next year. They got Josh Alibi, who's now played a little bit. But, overall, Dobbins coming back. They got a lot of wide receivers to replace, but they got some talent at wide receiver, young talent like Chris Olave and some other guys. So we'll see what happens. But I think we talked about Jeffrey Okudah earlier. I think the secondary could be good. I think this is going to be a good Ohio State football team. We'll see how good. Urban Meyer set the bar extremely high. So did Jim Tressel. So Ryan Day, it's never easy to follow a legend, but I have a good feeling about Ryan Day, and I think the 2019 Buckeyes are going to be a really good team.
I think so too, and I think that you look at the schedule, I think things shape up pretty nicely. Cincinnati will be a tricky early non-conference test, but you get a lot of your tougher conference games at home. It'll be tricky to see how they handle Penn State and Michigan in the last 2 games of the year. It's not often that you have Penn State right before a game like Michigan, so that'll be interesting, and obviously a test you have to go to Ann Arbor. But I was just talking about Ryan Day's offensive staff. The guys he hires as a defensive coaching staff are going to go a long way. A guy who's never coached before taking over a program like Ohio State, I think that these assistant coaches, coordinators are very important for setting things up for him going forward. So that'll be interesting to keep tabs on throughout this offseason. But the talent is certainly there. These Buckeyes have recruited well. They've got plenty of talent even to replace the guys. I would really like to see something come from Austin Mack and Benjamin Victor. They've been good, not great. And in Benjamin Victor's case, I think you could even say he hasn't even been good a lot of the time. So these are talented players that need to step up. There'll be new offensive linemen, as Dave said. The linebackers have to play better, and that will start with the coaches. But it's got to be a better group. They played decent yesterday in the first half, but didn't keep that up. So there needs to be improvements, progress made. That should happen throughout the off season anyway. But, I think there's certainly the talent there. I think there's reasons to be optimistic about Ohio State going forward.
Good stuff from my guy, Patrick Murphy. I really appreciate it, Patrick, and I appreciate all of you for listening to the show. Happy New Year, Bucknutters. Let's hear the Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.